is the purpose of a sermon? Is it to hear nice sounding words from the pastor? What is the purpose of a sermon? Is it for me to make you feel good about yourselves? No. A purpose of a sermon is to challenge you. Is to challenge you to be 110% obedient to Jesus Christ. So a sermon is designed to invite people to make radical change in their life and in their habits. In other words, God's Word must translate into action. What I say behind this pulpit must become real and active in your life. What I say here, you must take into your heart and live on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. Otherwise, I'm just taking up space. Otherwise, I'm just saying empty words. The purpose of a sermon is for you to take that sermon, bury it into your heart, and make it part of your life. So an invite at the end of a sermon is crucial. An end of a sermon must come with a choice that you have to choose. A choice to make a difference in your Monday. A change in your desires. A change in your habits. A change in your destiny. Jesus ended his Sermon on the Mount with an in-your-face invite and a challenge. He gets serious in Matthew chapter 7. He looks the congregation in the eye and he says, time to make a choice, people. Time to choose. And his invite is actually a command in Matthew 7:13, where he says, enter through the narrow gate. Enter through the narrow gate. You see, entering is a choice. He is saying, there is a narrow gate, and my challenge to you is walk on through. Enter. And then he pleads with them to take action on what he has just said, to step through by giving them an alternative. Here's the alternative. For wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction. And how many will enter through it? Next one, please. How many will enter through it? Jesus pointed to a second gate and to a second road. And that road, he said, leads to destruction. Can we go to the next one, please? Here we go. And that ends in big time trouble. Jesus restated and expounded this verse in verse 14, and he said, but small is the gate, and narrow is the way that leads to life. And how many find it? Can we go to the next one, please? Catch up with me, guys. But small is the gate, and narrow is the way that leads to life. And only a few will find it. So there are two gates, and there are two roads. And one is small, and one is wide. One is narrow, and one is broad. So we have two destinations. There is destruction, and there is life. And what he's saying is many find one road, and only a few find the other. So there's a picture of two roads. And this picture of two roads was burned into my life when I was a teenager. My neighbor took me to church. And it was Sunday school time when I went to that church. And the teacher showed me in class something I had never seen. It was a large, colorful picture that she had pinned to a board. And I have tried to recreate it here on the screen for you. Just stay with that one. From the middle of the board, from the bottom, there was a broad highway that shot up to the left, the top corner. And tons of people were walking on this road. And some of them had beer bottles in their hands, and others were just having a good party. There was someone there in their sports clothes walking along this broad road. But as I looked at it, everybody was smiling. Everybody seemed happy. Everybody looked like they were having fun on this broad road. It was just party all the way down this broad road. And when I looked at that picture in that Sunday school room, it just seemed to mirror my life. I understood who those people were. You see, growing up, I played sports on Saturday. Then I played tennis on Sunday all day. I saw booze and party Friday night and Saturday night at the clubhouse. And my dad was the life of the party. And as a kid at the parties, being one of the youngest, I was the barman. So they trained me to pour everybody's drinks. And so I watched all the adults get tipsy, and then get happy, and then get drunk, and then act like a bunch of crazies. And I identified with those people that I saw on that broad road. They were my kind of people. It was the end of the road that really surprised me. It ended really abruptly, and there was a sign at the end of the road that said, death. And the picture had people falling off the edge of the road, and they fell into this huge pit of fire. And I smiled because it reminded me of a song that I knew from the rock and roll band AC/DC. So in my Sunday school class, as I looked at all the people on the broad road, I started bobbing my little self and tapping my foot to the music in my head, because I was singing, I'm on the highway to hell, on the highway to hell. And then the teacher pointed to another road that also rose up from the bottom and went to the top right. And this became a narrow, windy path as it slowly wound its way up. And there were big boulders in this pathway. And a few people were trying to squeeze their way between these boulders. Thorns covered some of the road, and people were almost crawling through the thorns. The road was steep, and in this image there were people just crawling their way up this narrow, steep pathway, using all the energy that they had. It looked just hard and torturous. It just made no sense to me. Why would anyone want to struggle along this tiny little windy path when they could have a great time on this awesome broad road, just having so much fun? It was the end of the pathway that I was a little surprised at. It led into this golden city bathed in light. There was a faint image of the throne of God in the very center of the city. And there were praises and there were angels all around the throne of God, and they were all worshiping in song. This was the pathway to heaven. It was the exact opposite of the pathway to eternal destruction. Now, today I am very grateful for that Sunday school teacher showing me the image of the two roads as she was trying to express what Jesus had to say. But today I realize that she made 3 errors, 3 mistakes in her Sunday school lesson to me. Error number 1, she put me at the fork of the road. She put me at the bottom. She marked an X where the two roads forked. And she said, all of you are standing here. Now you can choose either the broad road or you can choose the narrow road. It was one of two choices, broad or narrow, heaven or hell. And she asked, who wants to choose the broad road? Well, that narrow road just didn't make any sense to me. It looked like a fairy tale gone bad. The broad road made sense to me. So I put my hand up. I choose the broad road. And then she just glared at me as if I had done something wrong. Nobody else raised their hands. It was just kind of dead silence as everyone looked at me. And then she pointed to the picture and said, do you want to go there? No. So slap my hand down, put my hand down. Today I realize I put my hand up because the teacher put me at the wrong place. She put me where? At the fork of the road. Reality is, I cannot choose to be on that broad road. I was born on that broad road. I was conceived on the broad road that leads to destruction. Listen to David's view of sin. In Psalm 51 verse 5, he goes back to the day he was born, and this is what he says, surely I was sinful at birth. And then he goes even 9 months further back to his birth, and he says, sinful from the time my mother conceived me. So sin was transferred to me through my father. Sin was in my bones. It was in my blood. It was in my skin. It was in all of the 37.2 trillion cells that make up me. Even when I was in my mother's womb, I cannot choose and do not choose to be bad. I was born to be bad. I was automatically on the highway to hell. So I was kind of right when I put my hand up for that teacher. For those of you who know computers, the broad road is like your default. It is your automatic home page. It stays that way until you, the user, make a conscious choice to change your home page. And every person you know was born on that broad road that leads to destruction, except for one person. Jesus. He was conceived without a man, without Joseph. Mary was a virgin. The Holy Spirit overshadowed Mary, and she conceived. Jesus is the only human who was never conceived or born in sin. He was born on the pathway to heaven. He was never a sinner like you and me. Being born on the broad road, the teacher should have placed that X on the broad road, not at the fork of the road. So I have only one choice, Sunday school teacher, the narrow way. That's my only choice. I don't have one of two choices. I have one of one. Have you made the choice to go along the narrow road that leads to life? Have you given your heart and your life to Him? Because I tell you, only God can change the default settings in your life. It is a miracle called forgiveness, and He saves you from your sin. So don't make the error that my Sunday school teacher made when she presented to me two choices. I was born on the broad road, and so are you, that leads to destruction. I have only one choice, amen? And that is the choice to get onto the narrow road, to go through the small gate that leads to life. Then the Sunday school teacher made a second error. She said narrow equals hard. Narrow equals hard. She explained this narrow way as a hard road, as a difficult road. Christians have to overcome hurdle after hurdle after hurdle after hurdle in their daily walk with God. And the more she taught, the more I asked myself, why would I want to choose a hard, narrow, difficult way when the broad way is easy? That is crazy thinking for a teenager. To convince me that this was the right, she kept pointing to the end result of that narrow way, heaven. I thought to myself as I sat in that Sunday school class, you got a good point. I don't want to go to the fire. So I had an awesome idea. Why don't I just make the best of both choices? Why don't I make the best of both roads? I will enjoy the fun on the broad road as long as I could in this life. But when I come to the very end of that broad road, then I will jump over into the narrow road, and just before I die, I can reach heaven. So now I've got the best of both of them. I can live and have all my fun on the broad road, but I can also get to heaven. I had beat the system. I got the system done. I got this. I am so smart, I now have the